Hello and welcome to CUBE Speed. My name's Rich, and in this episode we're going to be reviewing and also just showing you how to install our awesome new short shifter to suit the Mazda MX5 and Miata, and we're looking at the NA series. So with this product, our goal was to produce a shifter which not only gave quicker shifts, but to also build on the natural character of these cars by further improving upon that really engaging and driving experience that they're really famous for. And what we've come up with is we believe to be the ultimate short shifter for the NA series of the MX5 and Miata. So to get started, we're going to crack on with giving the short shifter a run through the gears, just to show you what it's like, and then look at the components, and then get on with the install. Okay, so starting off in first gear, and then through to second, and then with third, you just need to push the lever forward, and it'll pretty much self-select third gear, and then back into fourth, and then fifth gear, and then of course reverse. And wow, that is just so nice to use. It's so hard to show on video, but it is just incredibly nice to use. So the first thing you notice is the 40% shorter shifts. And then you notice how the shifter feels really like a precision instrument now. So instead of feeling all wobbly and loose like the factory shifter. So you'll also notice how defined the gate feels as well. So each gear has got its own really defined location. So you've got absolutely no doubt as to what gear you're going to be selecting. You know you're going to be selecting the gear that you're intending to. And then of course is that incredible second or third upshift as well. So there's no chance of missing third gear on the upshift there. So let's just have a look at all the parts of the shifter now, and then we'll move on to the install as well. Okay, so just having a quick look at the parts that you get in the kit. So first is the lower shifter lever, and one of the big differences with this compared to the factory NA lever is there's two slots on this, so this is actually pivoted in 2 points rather than the factory shifter that's only pivoted in one. So it actually makes the shifting much more accurate compared to the factory shifter. And then we've just got the upper shifter lever. We've got the spacer ring with the slot in it, retainer hardware. We've got the main shifter housing, and we've got the retainer plate. And then we've got these two bushings and also two O-rings as well. All right, so we've got the factory shifter here. We're just going to remove first. So you just got to make sure it's just in neutral, and then it's pretty easy. We just need to undo these 3 bolts here. And then most of the shifter just comes out as one piece, just like that. So we don't need any of that. We're just going to put that to one side. And then we just need to remove this factory bushing that's in here. So pretty much you can just pull that out with your fingers. And then underneath that is a wave washer. So just need to remove that as well. And then after you've done that, just make sure that the shifter housing is nice and clean. So this one's obviously already been cleaned. And then the first bit we're going to install is just the spacer ring. So there's a slot in the spacer ring, and that just engages just over that pin there. So that just goes in like that, just drops in. And then the next part we're going to install is one of the white bushings and O-rings. So you can see on the bushing it's concave on one side, and then on the other side there's a slot. So that slot just holds the O-ring. So if you just put the O-ring on first like that, then the O-ring goes down on the downside, I should say, and then it just slots into that space there. So that's all installed. And then the next part we're going to install is the lower shifter lever. So we're just going to put like a little bit of grease on that first. So you don't need to go too crazy, but just kind of grease up the ball and also like the slots there. And now it can get a bit tricky, but we just need to line up this bushing into the hole inside the gearbox there. So it might take a couple of goes. Yeah, okay, so it's slotted in there nicely. And then just make sure these slots are just facing towards the front of the car and the rear of the car. And then the next pit we're going to install is the main shifter housing. So it's got these two pivot pins, and the pivot pins are offset. So the pins need to get this, the main shifter housing needs to be installed. So these pins are at the bottom of the housing. So it just goes on like this. And then you've got 3 holes in here for the bolts to bolt onto the gearbox or transmission. So you may need to rotate the shifter, or the shifter housing I should say, so that those bolt holes line up with the holes in the gearbox, but also making sure that these slots are facing towards the front and the rear of the car. And then the next part we've got to put on is the second white bushing and O-ring, which is identical to the bottom one. So again, the O-ring just goes into that slot on the bushing, and this time the concave side faces down and the O-ring faces up. So just push it in there snug. So the O-ring is kind of just below like the surface of the main shifter housing. And then the next bit we're going to install is the retainer plate. So the retainer plate, the holes on that just line up with the holes that you've already lined up on the main shifter housing. And then from there we can just install the retainer screws. So just when you're doing these up, it's good to just hold the plate down just to make sure the O-ring doesn't pop out and get pinched. Yeah, so we'll just speed through screwing these down. And then these just need to be done up so they're firm to tight. So you don't need to go crazy, but just pretty firm. Okay, so the next bit we're going to install is the upper shifter lever. So when you're installing this actually in your car, it's a good idea to put a medium strength thread locker just on this thread, just to stop it from unwinding. And this just gets screwed on by hand. So just do it up as tight as you can just by hand. And then, although it doesn't come with it, in this case we're going to install one of our CUBE Speed billet gear knobs, just because they look really good and they feel really good to use as well. So you do that by just installing the lock nut first. So you just screw that all the way down, or almost all the way down, and then screwing on the gear knob. So just get the logo so it's straight, and then you you use the lock nut or the jam nut to wind up underneath the gear knob, and then lock it off, so that way the gear knob logo stays straight. And then it's installed. So now it's all ready just to test out. So we can just give it just a run through the gears. So it's working absolutely beautifully. Wow, so that just shifts so nice. It's just really, really nice to use. So thank you very much for watching, everyone. If you've got any questions, just make sure you reach out to us, and we'll catch you again soon.